Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make deep future garage in the style of Asa and Sara. As usual, you can get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available. And yeah, let's get started. So the loop you heard in the intro, we're at 140 BPM, and the first sound we have here is this Reese bass, which sounds like this. So I made this with Operator. I'll show you the notes first. It's just playing this sort of thing where it goes down in F minor from F to C sharp to A sharp. And then that last note there, it's just A sharp, an octave up. It just slides up. It's kind of like a nice way to have it go back into the first note because this is so much lower. So to take it up to a note that's really high like that and then go back down to that root note, yeah, it just kind of makes it a little bit smoother. Those are the notes for the sound with this one. Like I said, this is just made with Operator. I've got two saw waves. No FM is going on. I just have this FM algorithm where everything is just playing at the same time. It's not like doing any FM. And yeah, so then you can see the second one is detuned a little bit. That's kind of how you get the Reese bass sound. And then I have those going into a low pass filter. So the low pass is set like this. I got a bit of resonance, excuse me. And I got the frequency set like that, and then I have the frequency being modulated very slightly by this LFO. So you can see I've got it on the filter there, and the amount's at 20%. So if I turn this off, you can hear it still has some motion from the detuned oscillators, but when we turn the LFO back on, you can hear it just gives it that really cool sort of like neuro movement. I wasn't trying to go super neuro with this bass or make it like super intense. I just wanted to kind of show you a quick way to get that sound. But yeah, just having some movement and some very subtle movement on the filter and then having those detuned oscillators is a really good combination to get this like big warping moving bass. So then after that I have a bit of chorus which is set like this. This is just to give it a bit of space and just a little bit more dimension, you know. Kind of helps to bring it to life to have it be slightly stereo. Obviously you don't want it to be like super wide if it's your bass. But having something like this on top is just a nice little element to, again, give it some more dimension and kind of fit it into the space of the track a little bit better. So the next thing I have here is the saturator. It's really simple. I actually just have the default setting and then I turn up the drive a little bit. Just kind of beefs it up a bit. It's really good with that filter movement. Like that combined with some saturation can make some really nice sounds. If I turn it off, you can hear this is just kind of like this subby bass, but when we add this, it's a bit more powerful, and it really brings out the like warping sound from the synth. So the next thing that I have here is this auto pan, which is set like this. So what I'm doing with this is it's actually not doing any panning modulation or automation modulation, whatever you want to call it. I have the phase set to 0, so it's actually just affecting the volume. And then what I have here is I have it set to half notes. So this is giving it that kind of like pulse, which every other instrument has this as well, or every other melodic instrument I'll show you in a second. But yeah, this is just kind of playing off of the drums. Like if you listen to the drums, they're halftime. And so this kind of fits with that groove a little bit more. Versus if I turn it off, it still works, but I feel like this kind of makes it really like in the pocket with the drums, if that makes any sense. And this is a technique I heard in a bunch of Asa and Sara's tracks as well. Like they do this a bunch, and it's a really cool way if you put this on like everything to just give it that cool like pulsing kind of effect. So the next thing I have on here is just the compressor side chaining it to the kick. And then finally I have this EQ8 cutting out a bit around like 200 hertz because it was kind of boxy sounding. And that's usually where most of those like boxy kind of frequencies are. And then I boosted a little bit here just to bring out the mid-range a little bit more. If I turn that off, yeah, you can hear it. It's just kind of refining the sound a little bit and polishing it a little bit more. So the next thing we have here is this drone, which sounds like this. So what this is really simple. Basically, I took this F minor chord. I'll play it for you really quick. Yeah, I had made that in some synth, and then I brought it into this granulator. And if you don't know what the granulator is, it's a granular synth available from Max for Live. If you get the project file and samples from this video in the description, shout out to that. You'll get this. But basically, yeah, it's just this granular synth from Max for Live. And what a granular synth is basically a sampler where it plays back a sample. But when a sampler would just play the sound from start to finish, this is playing like all over the sound. If you look at this, you can see those yellow lines that are jumping around there. That's where it's playing on the sample. So it just kind of brings the sound to life a little bit more because it's more random and sort of like organic this way, as opposed to just having like a synth where it would just sound the same the whole way through. So like I said, I had just bounced out an F minor chord and then I put it in here and this is just playing C. F minor is the key of this track, so that's why this is playing that chord. And yeah, I know I use this technique a lot, but it's very useful. Like you can hear in this kind of track, it really makes it feel that much more like ethereal and sort of like just, I guess you would say like mysterious. Here's without it, which is cool. But then with it, I feel like it just helps bring everything to life. So then the first effect I have on that is this reverb, which is just giving it a bit of space. It's set like this. Then I have that same auto pan that was on the bass that I was telling you about. And then finally, I just have a compressor side chaining it to the kick. So the next thing we have here are these vocal chops, which sound like this. The way that I made these was I took these different little vocal shots. Just like some vowel singing kind of sounds. And I basically just brought them in here and you can see I pitched them all around a bunch of different ways. So this is kind of how you would make these vocal chops. Basically, yeah, just taking like some vocal samples like this and just taking them and kind of like playing around them rhythmically. Like you can hear it's sort of playing off of the drums. And like the flow of the beat. So yeah, just kind of like getting the samples and then putting them in there and doing something that fits with the rest of the track. I think that's really the key with these kind of vocal chops because they can sound cool, but they really sound their best. I feel like when, again, you just really fit them around like the beat and the rhythm of the track. So that was how I made those. As far as the effects go, the first thing I have here is this G-snap. So I'll turn off all these other effects here and I'll sort of explain this. If you don't know what G-snap is, it's basically just this free like auto-tuning VST. It's in the description. You can pick it up. Again, it's free, so it's really no issue there. But yeah, what I'm using it for here is just to give these kind of like a little bit more polish and a little bit more of like an interesting sound. So here's without it. Which obviously doesn't sound very good. These are actually a little bit out of key. But the reason why they are set that way is because when you put them through G-snap, there you go. They're perfectly in tune. And because they were a little bit out of tune, when it's doing all the auto-tuning, you get like this really cool sound. Like that. Like that has that really cool, obscured, future garage, burial, Asa and Sorrow style sound. So that's kind of the purpose of that. So the way you use G-snap is really simple. Basically, you just set the scale. In this case, I did F minor because it's the key of the track. And then you just kind of use these controls to play with it. Like you use the threshold for how much you want. Same thing with the amount. And the attack and release are kind of like the time. Like it's a really simple way to get this auto-tuning effect. So if you wanted some auto-tune vocal chops, this is a great way to do it. Get this VST and start playing around with it. So the next thing that I have on there is this bandpass filter, which sounds like this. So this is kind of like obscuring it a little bit more. Basically, it's just taking out some of those low frequencies and some of the high frequencies. And yeah, just making it sound a little bit like deeper and more obscured. It's really not a whole lot behind this one. Just definitely an important trick for vocal chops is putting them through a bandpass filter. So the next thing I have on here is this erosion, which sounds like this. So you can hear this just kind of takes that bandpass sound and sort of like gives it a bit more texture. The interesting thing with this is you can actually do a lot of stuff. And if you play around with like combinations of where you have the filter frequency and where you have the erosion set, you can get like some cool things. Like if I start messing around here. There we go. It's like a totally different texture. So it's a really interesting thing to do for vocal chops. I really like doing this. I do this pretty frequently when I make vocal chops. So the next thing I have on here is some reverb. Pretty straightforward there. Then I have this OTT. If you don't know what OTT is, it's a preset for Ableton's multiband dynamics. You can find it right there. It just stands for over the top, and that's basically what it does. It just takes like anything you put into it and just compresses it like way over the top. And you can hear what it's doing here is it's bringing out that reverb a lot more. So this will become a little bit more obvious why I have this in a second when you hear these other things. But yeah, it's just kind of like making that reverb jump up a bit more. So the next thing I have on here is that auto pan doing the half note thing. You can hear that's kind of working with that reverb and giving it a cool sort of rhythm. Then I have an EQ8 cutting out the low end. And then finally, I just have this compressor sidechaining it to the kick. So those are the vocal chops. The next thing I have here is pretty simple. It's just this vinyl noise. You probably already know it's a very popular effect in Future Garage. Like I said, I just took a little bit of vinyl noise, and then I had the auto pan on there doing the half note thing because I felt like it was standing out a little bit too much without that. And then I just have an EQ8 cutting out the low end to make sure it doesn't have anything going on in the low end that could get kind of messy. So the next thing I have here are the drums, which all together sound like this. So I have a bit of processing on the group. I'm going to show you the individual sounds first. So the first thing in the drums that we have are these hi-hats, which sound like this. So I have this kind of quiet one, which is just playing steady 16th notes, and then I have this sort of like main one, which is just playing like that pattern. So pretty simple there. It's just kind of a matter of layering them together because you get a lot more like groove when you have that second one. I feel like it really just makes it have the right energy. If I turn it off, even though it's quiet, yeah, it doesn't feel like it has as much energy. So yeah, and then the other thing I'll show you with these is you can see I have a bit of this swing on there. So I have this on pretty much everything in the track. It's pretty important for this style, for like anything garage related. Definitely having some swing is pretty important. And when you use a groove like this, it makes it very easy because it means everything will have the same swing, so it'll sound really tight and clean together. So then the next thing we have here are these rim shots, which sound like this. So these are kind of like the percussion of the track. Basically what I've got is I've got these 3 rim shot samples. Here's what they sound like with no processing. And they're just playing this little thing that's kind of like playing off of the beat. And then I put a bit of processing on them. So I have these all in a drum rack, which makes it really easy to just, put processing on all 3 of them at the same time. And so the first effect I have is a bandpass filter. That's what's kind of like making them sound a bit darker. I like doing this because it makes them kind of fit into the background a little bit more. Like they don't stand out so much and they don't take up so much space in your mix. And then after that, I just have a little bit of reverb. You can see it's got a really short decay time. It just kind of helps to bring these to life and give them a little bit more space. So then the next thing I have here is a kick, which sounds like this. And yeah, really not too much to this. It's just kind of like a powerful kick. The only thing I can tell you is with this kind of music, it's very important to make sure it works really well with your bass. Which in this case, I think this one does. But yeah, just kind of like having the kick and bass sound good together is really important because a lot of the groove here and a lot of like the feeling that's going on with these kind of tracks is happening with the kick and the bass. Like it's happening in the low end. That's where a lot of the groove happens. And that's where a lot of that like really powerful movement is happening as well. So just making sure the kick and the bass fit together is very important. So the last thing I have here is the main snare, which sounds like this. So this is 2 layers. I have this layer, which is kind of like a punchy, like rim shot style snare. And then I have this one, which has a little bit more space, and you can hear it's a little bit deeper sounding. So this just kind of sits on top of that other one. If I play you, I'll show you the drums all together. If I turn off the layer, you can hear it's not quite as deep sounding. So yeah, it's kind of like the combination of both of those. And then the only processing I have on the layer is just this EQ8 cutting at the low end because you can see there was a little bit of it. So then on the drum group, it's really simple. I just have a bit of saturation, kind of beef everything up a bit and give it a little bit more of a dirty vibe. All I did was I just turned up the drive a bit and then I changed the color mode to Sinoid Fold to make it a little bit more intense. Here's without that. And then with it. So you can hear, yeah, it's just kind of beefing all the drums up there. So that's me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I've gotten a lot of requests for this one, so I want to make sure and do it right for you guys. So make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you can get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they will be available. You can also check out all my social media, which is on the screen right now, as well as in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.